welcome everybody, and welcome to Property Bants and Rants, and we're here to inspire and help people in the property industry. And today I'm very lucky to have my good friend of mine, the one and only Stephen Brown. I'm sure you all know him in the property industry, but he's a good friend of mine. I've known him for many, many years, and I think he's actually a remarkable agent, trainer, but also a remarkable person and human. He's been through ups and downs, but he's very inspiring, a truly resilient person, so can all learn a lot from him. Stephen, welcome to you. How are you?
Thank you. This brings back memories of the Green & Co days about 20 odd years ago, when, wow, did I love working with you and Angelo. You were exceptional. You got all my sales through. You were the go-to conveyancer.
Oh, Stephen, thank you so much. Thank you so much. But Stephen, a lot of people know you. Not everyone knows your background. So tell me, how did you get into where you are now?
Oh, how long you got? I left school at 18. I wanted to go to uni. I didn't get the grades that I wanted. I applied for 2 jobs. One was at 2,500 and one was at 3,500. And being 18-year-olds, I was obviously very greedy and decided to go for the one at 3,500. When I got there, they paid me an extra £500. So I started off from 4,000. I know. Showing my
negotiate even at that time. That's what I'm impressed about.
I didn't even negotiate. It just came in the first one. So that was good. And it was in commercial investment agency. So I was making tea, I was doing photocopying, I was going to pick up plans and stuff like that. And then I started doing a little bit of selling, and I ended up doing more selling than the senior investment guy. And I saw an advert in the Estates Gazette for £50,000 for another agency. So I went and applied for that. And the guy liked my chutzpah and said, look, I don't think we can give you that because you're not that sort of level. But actually, you know what? We'll find and we create something for me. So they created something for me. Okay. I was there for a couple of years. The market was incredibly challenging. And because I was one of the cheapest there, literally the day before my second year was ending, they then made me redundant. And I decided that I was going to become a chartered surveyor. So I was doing correspondence course from the College of Estate Management. Not very well because I didn't bother to look at any of the correspondence. And by the time I realised that the correspondence actually and the assignments they sent were actually the answers to the questions in the exams, I failed part 1 and part 2. But then I managed to get through. In the meantime, I set up. So my dad at the time worked for a liquidator disposing of company assets. And he used to get loads of property assets, and he used to say, Stephen, who should I give this to? So I say, well, give it to that person or give it to that person. So when I left, he said, well, why don't you do it? And I'll just give it to you. So we did that. And sadly, at the time, my dad was very ill. And he then went into partnership with a couple of other guys. My dad passed away, and I became a partner with those guys. It didn't work out, sadly. I think it was 23 at the time, and they were giving me a salary of 30,000, which was a lot of money. So they promised the world. Nothing happened. So 4 months later, I left. I was 6 months away from qualifying. I got introduced to Green & Co. At the time, I was, in David's words, overqualified, and I would most probably leave within 6 months when I passed. And looking for commercial agency jobs, I was underqualified because I hadn't passed my RICS exams yet. So kept on looking, and 3 weeks later, David hadn't found anyone. I hadn't found anything, so I ended up at Green & Co. And I was there for 20 years. I don't think I sold the property for the first 9 months. The market was incredibly challenging at the time. People who bought properties in Maida Vale for 100,000 weren't able to sell them for 60,000. But fortunately, it clicked. And 14 months later, I was made branch manager. A couple of years later, I was made one of the directors. And then ended up looking after all the systems and processes and training of 100 colleagues. And then sadly, my late wife, Sam, got diagnosed with breast cancer. And I worked part-time for 9 months. And your perspective on life changes. and I was like looking after the kids, looking after Sam, and I ended up going for 9 months, and then Sam needed major surgery, so I left. And I ended up setting up my own consultancy. So I now work with estate agents and letting agents. And most probably I've done some work with auctioneers and solicitors and mortgage brokers. And I travel up and down the country. I've been to America, I've been to Australia. I get to see the good or bad and incredibly ugly side of agency out there. And my aim is just to generate more revenue for any agents that I work with and make them better versions of themselves. So in 4.5 minutes, that was summed up.
Stephen Brown in 4.5 minutes. But Steve, I mean, we'll come on to you in a bit later on about what you do. But I think you're doing an amazing service, and I think that level of experience that you've got is what enables you to give so much to agents at the moment. So I think it's a really interesting story that you've got there.
You know what? I've been in their shoes. I understand, what it's like, starting off really as a negotiator and going through all the different levels, selling, going on appraisals, overcoming concerns, asking for a business, recruiting, which I know some of the questions we're going to come on to a bit later. I know what it's like. So, and for me, every day's a learning day. So hence the reason why I've been to Australia, been to America. I have these great speakers on my podcast as well, because I want to learn, I want to improve, I want to get better. The only way to do that is by speaking to people that maybe done it, know these things, and you learn from them.
So Stephen, just a couple of things to pick up on that. It's not part of the talk, but I think it's so interesting. One is you can see Stephen started working really hard. He's always been a hard worker. I've known him for a long time, always been up really early, always done whatever it takes to get the transaction through. So he's a very hard worker, and I think you need that to be successful in any business. He's very resilient. He's gone through ups and downs. You can see he's had lots of challenges in his life, and he's changed careers, and you obviously had, you had things happen to you in your personal life, Stephen, and you're working, and you're still working through those. And the other thing is it's always learning. So although people go to Stephen to learn from Stephen is always learning as well. And I think those three things we just spoke about are criteria really to be successful in life. So Stephen, you know how much I admire you anyway, but let's get on to business. So let me ask you a question. What's the two biggest challenges do you think at the moment for a sales agent in this market?
I think for a sales agent, I think always it's how to get more properties on. And most probably now in the market we're in is actually how to find buyers with all the constant negative news out there. And I think the other thing is getting sales through quicker. And I think it's, we've been doing it now for 30 years. And sadly, I don't think the conveyancing process has got any better. In fact, I think it's taking longer now, which I really don't understand. And I think if things there can improve, there's no reason why it takes as long as it does. You look at other countries and it gets done so much quicker. Even Scotland have got a better system than us. No disrespect to Scotland.
It did sound a bit disrespectful when you said even Scotland, but no, I get what you mean.
Take that back. So if you've got any Scottish listeners, subscribers, my apologies. I do a lot of work with them as well. So,
but let me ask you a question there. So you got problems with getting the right stock on, you got properties getting the right buyers on, and you got problems with getting transaction through. What practical advice can you give us, just very simply, to first of all get more properties on? What in a simple way can people be doing?
And it's about being disruptive. It's about asking disruptive questions. So there's plenty of people out there that would need to sell, whether it's death, divorce, loads of different reasons. In fact, I'm going to give your subscribers something for free.
Oh wow!
There's 11 reasons why people need to move or want to move. Okay, send me a message. We'll see how many listeners you've got, and I will happily send you 11 with
okay, well, I'm gonna be on that. I'm gonna get on that list anyway. I'll write that down there, Stephen.
Okay. So one of the things actually is, if you look in COVID, a lot of people have got something called buyer's remorse. They moved during COVID, and what they've realised is their living space is too small, too big. They hate their partner. So just ask a disruptive question, how's your living space? And some of them will come up with that answer. Some people, or in fact, most agents, sadly, 95% of agents don't have a proper stay in touch policy with people that book through them. So, simple questions. So, Tony, can I ask you, do you own your own home?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Did you buy it through an estate agent?
I did. Yep.
Okay. How many years ago?
Or 6 years ago.
And how many times have you heard from that estate agent in the past? Particularly about your house, because they may be a client of yours.
Yeah. No. Probably about 3 times.
Okay. So that's 3 times more than normal. Okay. And that's great. So at least you've heard from them. And can I...
Yeah, the anniversary card.
Okay. That's good. Must be trained by me then. Okay. Okay. So have you done any work to your house?
Yes.
Okay. And out of interest, you don't need to share the numbers.
Yeah.
Out of interest, are you curious to know what your property's worth?
100%. Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to be in your road tomorrow at 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock. What's a good time to put my head round and give you an idea?
You've heard Stephen Brown's magic there, Stephen. That's fantastic. So, Stephen,
I haven't done any magic.
You have done. You have done magic because I'm getting you round now.
Am I coming round tomorrow at 1 or 4?
100%. Look at that. So, Stephen, I would say, so when you say be disruptive, ask the questions that sometimes people are scared to ask, because that's what people really need to know. Because we're all, I think, I'm a conveyancer. I wasn't an estate agent, but we're vanilla. We're all the same to people. Estate agents, we're vanilla unless we show people we're doing something different. So people want those questions because that's what gets them thinking. That's what Stephen's saying gets you the business. Secondly, great set of questions Stephen gave me, which actually is helping me. I'd actually be really happy if someone came around and gave me that, that explanation, because I'd like to get my house valued as well. So, Stephen, thank you very much.
Let me ask you.
Go on. Oh my God, you got more questions. This is going to be the knockout.
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Okay. So, firstly, you bought it 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So the property market has changed, and you most probably got a lot of equity in there. Have you thought about taking some money out and buying another property?
Bing! Like it.
So that one question actually gives you 10 cross-selling opportunities as well. So again, number 2 giveaway today. They want to know what they get from that. Just send me another message, and I'll send them a list of potential cross-selling opportunities. And final one, Tony, are you in your dream home?
Great. Free, Stephen. It's magic. Well done. That's why I love going on your course.
And are you in your dream home, Tony?
No, I'm not. I've always dreamed more.
Find you your dream home within your budget. Would you consider moving?
I would.
Yeah, there you go. Now I've got an instruction. There you go. I've done my work for the morning. Thanks very much for allowing me to come on your podcast.
You're not more information from you, Stephen. Go on. So that is really good. That's going to generate more business. Let me ask you about conveyancing quickly then, because it is. You're absolutely right. The process is stuck. As I say, I was an estate agent. I'm a conveyancer. It's getting worse and worse. So now the average is now about 5.5 months. That's what they say. So almost half a year. When I was an agent, we'd converting our pipeline 4 times a year. Most agents now, if they do it twice a year, I think they're almost lucky now, which is incredible. What's your solution for that, Stephen? I know there's no perfect solution, but what would you advise the agents to do?
It's all about educating everybody, and it starts actually when people register to buy. So are you sending them first time buyer guys, step by step? Here's what you need to do to become buyer ready. So when you see a property that you like, you're ready to go. From a seller side, making sure they're sale ready. So I know you've got the exchange ready pack. So plug for you. Go and use the AV Reload and have a look at this exchange ready pack, because it's going to save you time, and that's about. So it's just about educating. So for me, I'd be interviewing Tony at AV Reload and saying, right, what do you need to do as a seller to be sale ready? Okay, Tony as a buyer, what you need to do, and just put them out there in different Facebook groups in your local area, and just keep on educating people as to what they need to do. I think this digital logbook is a really good idea, putting absolutely everything together in there. So again, all your paperwork. So as soon as, you've agreed to sell, everything's done. I even wouldn't mind seeing hips coming back, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I agree.
It's, don't know why they left in the first place, but just be as organised and prepared as you possibly can. But it's just educate people every single day as to what they can do to be better prepared, better organised. That's a start. And I'm sure there's so much new tech out there. There must be tech that can bring all these things a lot quicker. And that's what I don't understand. Why we haven't progressed. Everything else seems to progress, but it's taking, as you said, 5.5 months. Why is it taking that long? It shouldn't. So something's broken, something needs to be done.
I agree. So I think I'll summarise my understanding of that, Stephen. I'll give you my tips as well. So number one is really serve the client by making sure that you educate them and give them the information to say, look, it is important that you get this done. Start doing that early, so that way they can get the right conveyancer on the transaction. I think the other thing that when I was an agent, I always made sure my financial services were sorted. Also, always made sure my conveyancing was sorted, because, clients don't pay agents to get offers. They pay agents to make the transaction actually complete. And that's, sometimes we're missing that, I think. We focus so heavily on, got offers coming in, but if they don't sell, the client's not getting served because it's not actually moving. So I think controlling that whole process is very, very important, Stephen. You've got to work with, with people that are going to support you. So, Stephen, thank you very much for that. Next question is, as business owners, as there's business owners that be listening to this, what do you think the biggest challenge for a business owner is in this at the moment? What should they be, thinking about?
I always think it's recruitment and people. So I'm in a couple of mastermind groups with agents up and down the country, and it's always the same thing, the same challenges, month in, month out. People, recruitment, where do we get more properties from, etc., etc. So again, it's finding those world class top performers, and actually keeping them happy. Make sure they're the best trained out there, so they don't leave. Make sure that agency is a learn it all business rather than a know it all business. And it's just going out there and finding the people. And it's a great book, Jim Collins, Good to Great, where it talks about getting the right people in the right seats on the bus. And that's really, really important. So, looking at your recruitment, looking at how you're going to find people. I suppose with everything going on at the moment with cost of living, you've got a lot of people that are worried about how can they afford their gas, their electricity, and stuff like that. So, and also wages obviously are rising, have risen quite a lot. So, how do you keep your people happy? And it's looking at that.
Exactly right. One of the things our philosophy is, and it's always been, hire A-class people, because A-class people actually, they're free. They may in theory cost you more money for the salary, but actually they're making you so much. They get such a better service to your clients. The clients are willing to pay you. They're actually free. Always go for an A-class person. But Stephen, you're right. It is a challenge. There's not that many people out there. But if you find some of those, and one of the guests I had on was Colin Malachin, who's an former SAS person, and he said when the SAS, a squad of 60 SAS soldiers probably are as effective or give more disruption to the enemy as a battalion of normal soldiers, and that may contain about 600 to 800 soldiers. So 60 people do as much as 600 to 800. So I think it's an amazing story. It's an amazing guest, but that's what it is. You get those people, they will be so much more effective than getting lots of people that are really not interested in the job, or not really committed to providing service, not really committed to getting that transaction through. So, Stephen, thank you for that. A couple other questions, don't mind. It's taking a bit longer than normal, but you're such a great guest. I want you to answer these few questions left. What's your predictions for the market, or can you give a prediction for the market, do you think?
I would never, ever make a prediction, because economists can't predict it, right? So how can Stephen Brown make predictions? All I can say is you can control your own actions. You create your own market. So that's what I'm going to be looking at. I think you can do exceptionally well in any market. It comes down to what you can control. So, you know, a lot of people are moaning, oh, it's a very challenging market. And I get it. The market has changed from where it was. And I mean this very, very respectfully to agents out there. It was easy the past couple of years, really, really easy. They put a property on, they have 30 people that wanted to see it, which was fantastic. They have 30 offers on the property. They went to best and finals that would go miles over the asking price. And everybody became order takers. And I think now is the market where you have to be matchmakers. So know who your hot buyers are, know who needs to move, who needs to sell. And they are the things that you can control. That's where you can work on. So again, you know, create your own market, because there will be plenty of opportunities. You just have to be very, very proactive, very proactive.
Stephen, what I take out of that is what I always say is you've got to take responsibility for yourself, because you're never going to be happy, and there's always someone to blame. There's always the economy to blame. There's always the buyer to blame. There's always the seller to blame. But you can control what you can do. So if you can control the controllables, that's what puts you on the path. And I think the other interesting point you said, Stephen, is we're going to look back at this time, at the last couple of years now, and think that's the odd time, because those times that everyone's buying doesn't happen very often in history. You know, we've just been through that period where it's happened, but the reality is we're going back to a normal market. You know, there's recessions sometimes, and I've been through a couple of recessions as an agent, and you know, half the deals just fell out of bed overnight. We're not anywhere near that. You know, but equally, we can't always be in this market where everyone's just buying everything. That's not normal either. So I think you agree, Stephen. We've just returned to a normal market where, you know, if you want to sell something, you got to be a sales maker and not an order taker. You know, that's the difference. That's a different mindset. So talking about mindset though, Stephen, what's maybe one or two things that are really, in terms of mindset, that have stood you in good stead for your career?
I think it's just having a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset. It's always been wanting to learn every day, get better. You know, I've had my dad, who was ill for 23 years of my life. I had Sam, who was ill for 10 years of my life. And they were both given not very long to live on a couple of occasions. So on my 21st birthday, I remember driving to Hammersmith Hospital, and through every red light, and my dad said to me, he said, "What are you looking to do, to try and kill me?" And I said, "No, but you told me you needed to get to hospital quickly." And the next day we went there, and all the nurses and doctors were like family, and they were in tears, crying their eyes out. And they said, "You need to go and say goodbye to your dad." Well, went to say goodbye to my dad, and the next day he set up a new business and was here for another 2 years. You know, Sam was only diagnosed the second time when it came back, and she was terminally ill. She got given a year to live. 4.5 years later, she was still here, and her oncologist was very eminent and travel around the world and say, "I've got this patient. She's on exactly the same treatment as everybody else. Everybody else is getting to a year. She's like 4.5 years." And it was down to how powerful their mindset was. You know, they didn't want to go. They wanted to fight. They wanted to be here. So it's having that growth mindset. It's having that mindset of being curious, of wanting to learn more. And for me, you know, there's a great book, Harold Dweck, Growth Mindset, which is really worth reading to help you. But, you know, there's so much fantastic information out there. There's so many exceptional people to learn from. And if you look at all the best people, and there's some brilliant podcasts out there, and, you know, you get inspired by these people, and they've all got this growth mindset. So that's the most important thing. And the other thing is, it's all about action and implementation. That's most probably my biggest lesson, I think, along the way, actually, only happened recently. I had a guest on my podcast called Lara Morgan, and she sold a business for about 23 million that she started in her early 20s. And I heard her speak at a conference, and I went up to her at the end of the conference and I said, "Thank you, fantastic talk. Can I come and spend a day with you?"
Oh, wow.
And she said, "I'm really busy at the moment. I'm in a merger, and it's not going to be a while. But I will get back to you in 6 months, but give me a name and number." And you're thinking, yeah, of course you will. So 6 months later, on the dot, I get a massive call from her PA. Lara can speak to you. When can you do it? So we spoke at 8 o'clock the next morning. We had a conversation. I told her I wanted her to be on my podcast. And she said, look, I can be on your podcast, but I can't do it to 2023. She said, you know what? Send me an email with a funny story. Okay. So I sent her an email, whether it's funny or not, I don't know, in 24 hours. She came back 24 hours later and said, I can be on your podcast next week.
Oh, wow.
What she was doing, she was testing me.
Yeah.
My implementation.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's right. Would I follow up? Would I take action? Because 95% of people do not follow up, full stop. And because I took action, she took action, and she came on my podcast the following week. So again, that's one of my biggest lessons, actually. Take action and implement stuff, and it makes a massive difference.
That's an amazing story. I mean, just as a side, it's all about getting in agencies, or everything, not agency, everything. We kind of get overwhelmed by wanting to know everything, and then we don't actually do anything, you know? I think Bruce Lee's got a famous statement. He said he'd be more scared of fighting someone he does it this way round. He said, I'm not scared of fighting someone that knows 1,000 kicks. I'm scared of someone who knows one kick but has practiced it 1,000 times, because they actually can be effective if you can do it. So Stephen, that's a great story. Now, I want to ask you one more question, then I'll finish up. But what I want to know to the listeners want to know, Stephen, I ask all my guests, what is something that you own which costs less than £100, but really you can't do without, and it's just excellent, and everyone should go out and get it?
Do you know what? I really found that challenging to answer the question. So I'm going to say to you, I would go out and buy a cheap handset for under £100, a telephone, to call people. Okay. And I think by talking to people and communicating and picking up the phone rather than messaging and emailing, and I know that's some people's preferences, but it's amazing what you do. So I've got a training course next week, and I picked up the phone, and it's amazing how many people are coming on that training course now. Now, would they have come on the training course if I didn't pick it up? I've got no idea. But I think for me, your telephone is the most underused resource, and it has been for a long time. Pick up the phone, have conversations. So I'd go and find a handset that's for under £100 and use that.
Stephen,
and if it's an iPhone 4, then it doesn't matter.
Okay, Steve, that's brilliant advice. Okay, because phones are all the conveyancers listening, please pick up the phone. We need to collaborate with agents to get on with each other and speak like. But as agency, I think it's kind of been we've got so much tech now, so much you can WhatsApp and send texts and send emails about property. It is about linking those buyers and sellers up and making telephone calls. And Stephen, now let me ask you a question. Where can people find you? Where you got a podcast? Tell us about your podcast. Tell us about how people can use you. Now, I've been on some of Stephen's training courses. I'm always looking to learn, and they're really, really good. Now, I always hear very positive outcomes from people that go on Stephen's course. So, I would say 100% go. So tell us about your course. Tell us about your podcast. Tell us how people can find you.
Blimey, so many questions, and thank you for your kind words.
That's right, it's true.
If you Google Stephen with a PHJ Brown Consultancy, the easiest thing is, don't take Tony's words for it, my words for it. Just look at my Google reviews. I think there's about 433 at the moment. So the aim is to get up to 500. But I do online courses. So next week's Negotiator Masterclass. I've got a list of Masterclass. I've got Create More Business Opportunities Masterclass as well. LinkedIn, you can find me there. Facebook, Stephen or SJB Consultancy. Twitter, Instagram, even TokTik or TikTok, whatever it's called these days, Instagram. So I'm on all of those as well. There's the Lunchtime Learning podcast. I've interviewed 94 people in and out the industry, which is really good. I've also got a podcast with Andy Overman and Luke Sinclair, the Estate Agents podcast. Now, we haven't been that consistent on that for a while, but you've got loads of back episodes as well. So there's loads of places, but I have interviewed some amazing guests, if I say so myself. So I'll give you an example. I don't know if people listen to the High Performance podcast with Damien Hughes and
I do, yeah.
Well, Damien's been a guest on my podcast a couple of times, so I'll leave it at that. Let's go out on a high.
Well, before we go, I just want to ask you one other question. You got an amazing you do some amazing charity work as well. How can people help you there as well?
That's really kind. So I just share the backstory, if that's okay.
100%.
A couple of years ago, Sam was, we just got given the news that Sam was terminally ill, and I was in the shower, and I was listening to the Houses of Parliament, and they were talking about a lack of digital equipment for kids at school. So I started off a campaign and was gratefully helped at the start by Jerry Lyons, the Estate Agent Contact Club, and Jerry helped me set it up, and he said, "Look, how much do you want to raise?" And he said 10 grand. So I said, "No, that's way too little. Let's go for 50 grand. But the long and the short of it is raised so far 130,000, 1,277 laptops and tablets have gone into schools.
Wow.
Nationwide at the moment. The aim is to get up to 200,000. I'm very grateful that what some agents are doing, they donate £10 per sale on a monthly basis. If they send me £60, I then send them a tablet back to a school of their choice. If they send me £200, I then send them a laptop to go to a school of their choice in the area. I'm just going to say a big shout out here, and this is the power of social media. So Thomas Morris sent some people on a course I put, and as a result, they made a donation of £250 to the cause. They then put it on Facebook. I sent them 5 laptops. As of date, and it hasn't finished, they've had 350 shares and 4,000 comments as to which schools should it go to, which is absolutely incredible. So it's really, really powerful. And it's
right. So they ask their clients nominate a school sort of things.
Yeah. So they put it on Facebook. We're involved in this campaign. We've got 5 tablets. Which school would you like to see them comment? It has
amazing.
Never seen. Yeah. So that's one campaign that's going really, really well. And as a result of that, I got introduced to an inspirational young man, a guy called Daniel Lloyd, who sadly lost his best friend, died by suicide at school 3 years ago. And he set up a campaign called Markers for Mindfulness, which puts, so effectively they get stationary resources and they send them to local schools. And the money the schools send them the resources, they can then provide well-being provisions to those pupils that will hopefully stop that. So I brought it to North London. He's predominantly based in Oxford. I'm trying to get it out to the UK. Barnet FC and Barnet Walking Football Club and Hereford FC have got involved. And we have collected, I've been into 25 schools in North London. And actually a big shout out to Jason Charles at Rightmove, who's just sent me some stationery as well, which I've just posted on LinkedIn. So my phone is going bananas at the moment with all the kind comments on that. And again, so what I found out is schools literally don't have a budget for pens, paper, and rationing paper. Can you believe it?
Gosh,
kids are going into school not being fed. So the money that we provide all these resources, they can then provide for well-being provisions. That's making a massive difference. So they're the 2 campaigns I'm involved in. If anybody will know more, get involved, please get in contact with me. It's there to help your local community and your local schools. And do you know what? I am so grateful to every single person that has donated, got involved, and is making a massive, massive difference. So thank you. And please, if you do want to get involved, do get in contact, because the difference it is making is incredible. And there is so much more to do. And sadly, my learning is that I thought we were a great country, but I think we're a third world country when it comes to schools, when it comes to budget and what's going on. And it's not just schools, but they're the one I'm predominantly involved in. So I don't want to make it a party political broadcast, but, you know, anything people can do to get involved. If you've got, I know you've just moved offices, so I don't know if you've got any old paper which has still got your address on that big A10 road, you know, that you're not using. Schools will love that. It will make a massive difference. So it can be anything. So again, I've got a list of stuff that schools need. I'll happily send that out to anybody that wants it. But I'm really grateful that you've asked about it. So thank you.
No, Stephen, you're an amazing person, great guest, and I say you're a lovely person, and charitable work is amazing. So, Stephen, thank you very much. Guys, I hope you got something out of that. I certainly did, although I've known Stephen for a long time. I always learning from him. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me as a guest. Really appreciate it.